Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Today I want to talk about the last point on the spectrum of a person. Yes, we have finally got to the end, and unfortunately, unlike some of my other videos where I would potentially like to finish a series on a high point or an interesting point, this one is mostly going to be a negative video, just throwing that out there as a warning, because rather unsurprisingly, you've seen it in the title, this one is the psycho. This is the most aggressive end of the kind of spectrum. If the spectrum runs kind of from neuroses to psychoses to a degree, then this is the most psychotic end of this spectrum that has been put forward. And as a result, this is where an awful lot of the most publicized negative kind of behaviors in relationships comes from. And so you're looking at some of the kind of basic descriptions for behaviors exhibited by these individuals are that they are controlling and threatening. They tend to be very antisocial and isolating of themselves. They tend to go through big mood swings. They tend to be very bipolar and prone to kind of tantrums that include things like physical damage to things and people around them. They don't tend to be assertive. They won't just control themselves in a confident manner. Instead, they will have to try and control by aggressive action of some sort or another. And they tend to be far more manipulative in the way that they deal with things, and they will isolate people. Now, this is where, I've mentioned kind of negative and abusive relationships before in regards to the investment bias and things involved, but this is the kind of person that plays on those investment biases in such a large fashion that it's hard for people to escape those situations. Think about it this way. I'll run through this. You've got a young man. Let's flip this on its head. You've got a young man. He's very much attracted to this girl that he's with, and he's trying to give her everything. Yeah. He will buy her things. He will take time out of his day to do what she wants him to do, all that kind of thing. And she's controlling and threatening in the way that she will take his phone and go through it because she doesn't trust him. She will threaten him, potentially with quite small things, but she will threaten him with punishments if he so much as does something that she doesn't like, even if it's something that he can't necessarily control, like something in regards to him having to work extra hours or something like that. She will still make threats against him if he hasn't done a thing that she wants him to do. She'll be antisocial. She won't want to hang out with him or his friends. She will just want him by himself, locked away. Extremely bipolar. 1 minute she will be his biggest fan and stroking his ego, and yet the next minute she will become literally a tantruming child that will potentially be physically damaging both to him or other people, or him, other people, things. Picking up pieces of furniture and throwing them across the room. As said, she can't. As a result, though, she can't just assert herself. Yeah, she can't put forward a confident set of ideas and choices and stand her ground on an issue to make a point across, to argue her point and to get some kind of consensus. She has to be aggressive. She has to stamp and threaten and break things and all those kind of things to make her point. And then she has to, he's always giving and she's always taking, and she's using that investment bias, she's playing on it to manipulate him, and whenever he's like, oh, well, I might go out and see some friends, go out and kick a ball around, something like that, and she will go, oh, well, I thought we'd do something together because, and he's like, well, I did say that I'd go out with them, and she's like, oh, well, and this is where the emotional blackmail will come out with things like, oh, well, if you love me, you'd stay here. And he's got a big emotional investment in this, remember, investment bias, big time. And so he's going to allow himself to be controlled because he wants the relationship to succeed, and she's suggesting that it won't unless he acquiesces to her directions. And as a result, he ends up more isolated. And now, obviously, everything that I've just said, remove young man, put in young woman. The people doing these things are of both genders. They're equally as negative for the people that they are with. And, this end of the spectrum is, if you are here, if you are actually in this place, then you are probably only a short time away from getting yourself into serious trouble outside of just relationships, but with probably the law. Because whether you're male or female, being abusive and negative like this, and moving from just being controlling and threatening on a manipulative on a minor scale into the more likely kind of involving of physical damage and assault and things like that, damaging property and breaking things as part of their tantrums because they can't get their point across. They have to just act out, be aggressive, shout, scream, throw things, smash things, attack people. It's only going to be a matter of time before they do that in the wrong place, or they do that with the wrong person who is willing to report them, who isn't going to be manipulated by them, and who, if they have been attacked by her, will report her or him or whoever. It's there are an awful lot more underlying issues with these people usually than just what you see. You aren't as likely to see someone who is in this place without them having an awful lot of underlying issues themselves. But that doesn't mean that what they're doing is in any way excusable. As said in so many other videos, you're responsible for yourself. If you're doing these things, intentionally especially, because sometimes I can understand some people just getting so wrapped up in their own negative emotions that maybe out of fear they start making threats, out of fear they start trying to control their partner and things like that. But in those situations, you don't tend to see as much of the physically damaging of things or people. Or at least from my observations and things that I've seen, both from people that have come to talk to me about this kind of thing and from case studies and the other things around this. But this especially is something to be very aware of. This is the one point along here where I would say that the spectrum is probably as helpful for monitoring yourself and making sure that you aren't doing this as it is for spotting these things, these threatening and bipolar, aggressive instead of assertive kind of a manipulation and isolation tactics. It's useful to spot those, because if you're walking into a relationship where all of those things are happening, my advice would be get out. And I realise that sometimes it is very, very hard for you to get out of a situation like that. But there are places that are available to help you do that. But anyway, those are my thoughts on this after going through it. Obviously not the happiest of videos, because obviously this is one of these negatives that is on the extreme. But it's like the biggest negatives on either extreme are this with outward aggression and outward damage done to the people and the things around them, or down past nice guy. Nice guy is still at least functional. But past that, you get people who turn all of that hate and negativity inward, and they end up potentially killing themselves. You've got this on the two extremes, but this is the active extreme that goes outside of just this individual and causes damage, and that's why it's on the spectrum, and it's why I'm talking about it. Because obviously, if you can't have a healthy, happy relationship, then you need to, you can't have that without realizing where you're going to go that is just dangerous for you to be. You can't avoid a minefield without knowing that it's there. But anyway, please, down in the comments below, how many of you guys have been in really shitty relationships with people like this? I can think of one for myself. And thankfully it wasn't a major one, it wasn't particularly long term, and it was one that I was able to remove myself from very, very easily. But, for those of you especially who have been in these kind of relationships more long term, how did you get out? Share your experiences, please, so that other people can learn from them. As much as I realise it sucked for you at the time, and hopefully is now a situation that's over, help others. It's one of the reasons why I started this channel. It's one of the reasons why I'm going to continue to do these kind of videos in one way or another as I go forward. But otherwise, if this gave you some stuff to think about, if it made you maybe more aware of some of the things to watch out for in the worst case scenario with a relationship, I would point out that these people are still a substantial minority from the dating pool at large, but it's obviously something to watch out for. But please, if you found this at all interesting or gave you some insight into things to watch out for, drop me a like, and otherwise please subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video tomorrow. Take care.